This is a Film Stories original podcast.
Welcome to the X-Cast. The truth is in here. This is episode 60 of the X-Cast's Podwatch, where today myself and Mr. Baz Greenland, you alright, mate?
I'm good, thank you.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about the first X-Files movie, Fight the Future, as it's sometimes called. It's a strange one, this, because I've always called it the X-Files movie. It was just the X-Files movie, and I didn't start calling it Fight the Future until I think I bought it on DVD. So, like the second or third time I bought this film, and it was tagged Fight the Future. I honestly thought Fight the Future was the tagline for the poster.
Yeah, I think that's probably how it was marketed as well. Because I remember actually seeing this movie back in, I was at 98, I think, when it came out of cinema, and obviously X-Files was huge at the time, and I was a massive fan even then. But I remember, I think you're right, it was a tagline. It was just the X-Files movie. Obviously, it was planned to be the first of many. I wonder if it's because they knew there was going to be more TV series after it. It became the movie in terms of marketing. But when they actually got to DVD and it kind of fits into the story, they was like an episode title for it. So maybe that's where it came about.
Yeah, I mean, you're possibly right. Actually, I never thought of it that way. It's that's as logical as anything I could come up with.
Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? But yeah, this is that came out, released in the States at least. I couldn't find a UK release date when I was looking around. I'm sure it's there somewhere, but it came out.
I know it was the summer, but I can't remember when. Yeah.
Yeah, so middle of June 1998, it came out in the States. So yeah, summer would probably the way it was. Late 90s probably would have been mid-August, end of August, I reckon. Over here, which would have made me just about old enough to go and watch it when it came out, which was good because at this point I was a massive fan of the X-Files. I remember having begged my mum to let me rent all of the videos from the local choices so I could get myself completely up to date before the film came out.
Well, these were the days. I don't know if you remember when they used to release the multi-episode stories on video as feature-length episodes, didn't they? So they had Tombs and Open Farm and Connolly and so on. So yeah, this was back in the day when they kind of released those, and that's kind of how I kind of saw a lot of the big stories before they came on. So they actually started releasing before they came on TV even. So I remember you would see these big feature-length, almost like mini movies themselves before the kind of big movie came out.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a lot of my family didn't care. I had, Tombs, Colony, all of those, most of the feature length on video ones I had. But yeah, I was really lucky. My local choices, it was like a 5-minute walk away from where I lived, and they had, when the big VHS box sets came out. I mean, we're not talking now. You buy the X-Files box set on Blu-ray. It's a foot wide and it's got all 9 seasons in it. Back then it was 3 foot wide and that was just season 1.
Yeah. Oh, I was the same. I had the videos as well before. I'm not on Blu-ray. I'm on DVD, but they're still good enough on Blu-ray. But I remember collecting all the videos, and they just took up so much room, unbelievable. And the cost them as well. The amount you would spend on even on like 2 episodes, a feature length one would cost like 15 quid.
Yeah.
Buying a box, you're looking at 60 quid. I remember buying box sets. I mean, not just that, all TV shows. I remember once going to HMV and spending £100 on Babylon 5 season 3. What
were you thinking?
Babylon 5 season 3 is brilliant, but I don't think it was 100 quid on any TV show these days over a season. You're looking to spend no more than 20.
No, absolutely not. I mean, I'm pretty much the same. I think by the time it finished, it was starting to come out on DVD, so not quite as much. But I was buying seasons of Friends on video for £60-70 a time. I didn't pay 70 quid for the entire box set of it I've got upstairs. You know what I mean? But yeah, so we can wax lyrical about the past for hours when it comes to stuff like this, can't you? But so Fight the Future came out June 1998, was written by Chris Carter and Frank Spotnitz, who, they were the driving force of, Chris Carter, the driving force behind the X-Files, and his good buddy, Frank Spotnitz.
They were good writing team together, particularly mythology episodes, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And directed by Rob Bowman, who you and I have spoken about a couple of times in the past. He directed a couple of good episodes and a couple of not quite so good episodes. And his film career took a bit of a dive after this. He went on and made Elektra. Yeah. But for the purposes of this film, actually, I think he'd done a spectacular job.
I think the thing, yeah. I mean, we'll talk about it more in a minute, but I think that's what I think. I think the idea that there are moments in Fight the Future that are properly cinematic that you maybe wouldn't have got on TV. So it's there were definitely. I think he's one of those really great directors that could make TV look fantastic, make exciting, thrilling. But there are definitely moments in this film, particularly the end, which are kind of pure cinema, even if the whole film as a whole doesn't quite feel that it reached that level.
I think you're right. It's got the film as a whole, and I think a lot of it is down to Rob Bowman and obviously the writing as well. But the direction, I think the pace is near perfect. Considering I watched the film last night and forgot that it was a 2-hour-long movie. I genuinely, I got to the end and went, I had no idea. Because that makes it more than just a double episode, doesn't it? That makes it 2 2/3 of an episode. So
I guess you kind of got these big three-parters,
yeah. So, but I think he paces it very, very well. I don't think there are slow bits, but they're not boring bits, which is always tough to do. But at the same time, it still feels like you're watching the X-Files, and I think that we've had numerous films since on TV shows ranging in quality from Entourage and Sex and the City to Star Trek, and not all of these films, hardly any of these films, manage to pace themselves properly and still feel like they're part of the same universe that we're watching. So I actually think that Fight the Future done
a struggle,
yeah. So I think Fight the Future actually done a really good job of that. But at the same time, I sat and watched it. Like I said, I sat and watched it last night. I sat and watched it with my wife, who watches a fair amount of the X-Files basically by proxy because I've got it on the damn TV. She doesn't get a choice. I'm watching X-Files. Either watch it or go somewhere else. But she can sit. I said to her, what we're watching tonight? We're watching the X-Files movie because I've got a podcast to do. Okay, I'll watch it. Literally, she can sit and enjoy it. This 2-hour-long sci-fi movie about an alien invasion that may or may not be happening, and she sat and enjoyed it without having to be an X-Files fan. That is something that is very tough to pull off for any TV series, but especially for something as niche as the X-Files.
Definitely. I did the same. When I watched it, when I did my big the X-Files revisited for the digital fix over the last couple of years, I did the same. I watched this. She dipped in a couple of episodes. She was a fan of the series at the time, but I think she sat and watched the whole film with me, and again, quite enjoyed it. And I think there's a lot to really enjoy about this one. It's a really good mix of all the things that made the X-Files great. It's got really good monster moments as well as the kind of the conspiracy stuff, the aliens. It's all there really.
Yeah, it's got some of it because to say I forgot is disingenuous. I didn't forget, but you kind of sometimes you don't realise just how violent this film is until you see like the aliens attacking it, and you think, Jesus, that's because there ain't many higher rated X-Files episodes by the time we get to TV. I think one season is rated 18 because of one of the episodes. I forget which one. And obviously the film is 15 rated, but it works for its 15 rated. It doesn't mess around.
It does, and I think this is probably the biggest success of the movie, really. And I think the one that people seem to forget. They think it's all about aliens and UFOs and government conspiracies, and it's all in there. I think the most successful parts of this movie are the monster moments.
Yep.
It takes aliens and makes it into a monster movie, and the idea of the particularly when the government guy gets trapped down in the kind of in the cave with a monster, and they just literally cover it up, and he gets trapped inside. It's horrific. And the ending, I love the ending because that is when it really properly cinematic. you've got the idea of this kind of huge, and literally is like inspired by like Alien. It's got this huge kind of gothic style epic inside of this UFO. And then you've literally got aliens bursting out of it's aliens. It's people bursting out of chambers and trying to tear them apart. It's incredibly exciting, and it's really tense, and it really does. It does what the X-Files does best, which makes really kind of terrifying monsters. And this is definitely, as much as it's an alien movie and a conspiracy movie, a mythology one, it is a monster movie too.
Yeah, absolutely, and you're right. It's probably its greatest strength is the fact that it is also a monster movie, not just a monster, but it's also a monster movie. But you mentioned in the end, like there are two bits in this film. I think one of them you probably would only get, or like when I sat and watched it with my wife last night, I sat there and giggled at it. Right at the end, Scully is half unconscious. Alien spaceship flies off. Actual, proper, honest to goodness, real life alien spaceship filled with aliens flies off. And all Mulder can do is sit there and poke her and prod her and tell her to have a look. Because even though she's right there, we're still 5 at this point seasons in with her just missing the big reveal.
Yeah. That's X-Files all over, isn't it?
It is. It's X-Files 101, but it's genius to put it in that film, to have it on that bigger scale, and for her to still be able to come in the next episode that's to come and go, well, I didn't see it.
Yeah. And actually, that's what's quite frustrating when you do get to... I think one of the most frustrating things about the season 6 open, which picks up after the movie, is you get Scully going, we're not quite sure what we saw. It's like, you saw a freaking UFO in Antarctica. What more can you really do? But yeah, you're right. She's so kind of out of it, even when she's in the spaceship itself. That could be anywhere. And I think, it obviously is Antarctica. I don't think you can deny that. But I think it's kind of, she doesn't see with her eyes what actually really goes on.
One of those moments that it's perfectly X-Files in a perfectly X-Files movie. I sat there and I had the biggest, stupidest grin on my face while I was watching it. I was like, I don't think it was the first time I'd spotted it, but I think it's maybe the first time I've watched a film since I started doing the X-Cast with Tony and yourself, where I started looking at things a bit more critically, and you go,
I think you do. I guess I love that. It's pure X-Files. I guess maybe at the same time that's the failing with the movie. I think people were expecting something huge, and actually, it's quite reserved in what it does. It basically reveals more information, but doesn't really get to the colonization stuff. Really, kind of comes ahead next season, and I think. It comes across really well when it culminates in Two Fathers, One Son. But I think here it teases all the alien colonization, but doesn't really progress it. It shows the aliens, but then they go away. Mulder and Scully are on kind of trial, but then they eventually kind of get away with it, and the X-Files gets reopened, but that's all that really happens. I guess that's the only. The failing with the film, really, I guess maybe I think it's a better film in rewatch because now you know where the X-Files is going to go.
Yeah,
you know that what gets resolved, what changes, and now it's come back again, and we're kind of currently on Apocalypse 17 now, aren't we? With the end of season 10.
Yeah.
So, but it's a much better film in retrospect because it fits in part of the wider narrative. At the time, it's kind of like, okay, the movie is a point when you really basically you change the dynamic of the X-Files. If it's going to happen anywhere, it's going to happen here, and it kind of doesn't really change anything. And I think that's probably the biggest failure in the movie is that it's quite reserved. It has a lot of great stuff in it.
Yeah,
it's very cinematic at times, but ultimately it's nothing more from a narrative point of view than any of the two parts that have come before it.
I do wonder because obviously now we know the film is set. It takes place between the end of season 5, which was called The End, and the beginning of season 6, which I believe was called The Beginning.
It is, yes, a bit on the nose.
But the film was actually made between seasons 4 and 5.
Yeah.
So I wonder if the point of the ending, and in retrospect it makes it a pretty shit ending, but maybe I wonder if the point of the ending was that at this point they just didn't know if they would have a season 6. For the same reason I reckon that they called the end of season 5 the end.
I don't know if they knew. I think they might have known season 6 by the time season 5 ended, but certainly, yeah, you're right. They finished. In fact, it's interesting because they finished season 4 with Mulder's dead, and then made a movie, and then had season 5 in the middle. And I think it's, I guess, I mean, maybe that's the other. I love season 5. I think season 5, and we talked about it when we talked about a couple of season 5 episodes recently.
Yeah.
But I think season 5 is one of those seasons which doesn't really have a bad episode at all. I think it's a very, very strong. It's not my favourite, but it's a very strong series.
Yeah.
However, I think the end proves that it doesn't really tie to the movie as much as it could have done.
Yeah.
And I think the ending ends with Gibson Praise and Diana Fowler and all that stuff coming into it. And the only thing it does set up for the movie is shut the X-Files down.
Yeah.
Which also seems a bit weird. You know, you have a movie about the X-Files, but there's no X-Files. It's like having a Star Trek spin-off when actually the Enterprise is not around anymore and they're doing other things. It doesn't quite work. So, and then when he comes back to season 6, it's back to Diana Fowler and Gibson Praise. So when you do watch it, I remember watching this last year, when you watch season 5 and then you watch the movie and then you watch season 6, there's a bit of it doesn't flow that well.
No.
The movie becomes a bit of an oddity itself, but it's a very, very enjoyable oddity at the same time. And so there's a lot in it I do really love. It's a strong movie. I think because it didn't do enough, I don't know. I mean, there's always that balance, and you see it in Star Trek and all these kind of spin-off movies of TV shows, when there's that balance of trying to kind of please casual audiences while at the same time, please the fans. I don't think this, being critical of the movie, I think it doesn't really do enough. It doesn't give the fans enough, but at the same time, and quite surprising actually, particularly on the rewatch, that I could see casual fans going, "What the hell?" with all the colonization and the conspiracy, so on. It's very X-Files, but at the same time, it's not that. It starts with the X-Files closed, so you go into let's watch the cinematic version of the X-Files, and the X-Files aren't even there.
Yeah,
and that's probably a bit weird in itself, but I still like it.
Oh yeah,
regardless,
it's still a fantastic. It's a fun film for all. I think for most of it, there's no bits in it that make you don't want to watch that again, or this was boring. I can't be asked to watch that again. It was a fun film to watch and a fun film to rewatch. But I think you're right, and I do think there's this problem with the time they filmed it and the time it aired or it released, and the gap in between. Mm-hmm. I do think there was, I don't know, just a gap in someone's logic when they were trying to timeline it. And it does fail a little bit for that. But it's still better than most spin-off movies I've seen.
Absolutely, yeah. It's got some great. I mean, they get some good caliber acting in it. I mean, you get Armin Mueller-Stahl in it. An Oscar-winning actor to play a member of the consortium who never appears again.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the concept is weird because actually, Cigarette Smoking Man is the iconic villain. By this point, he was the kind of iconic villain of the X-Files, and I think it always will be. Which is why, possibly questionably, but I understand why they brought him back in season 10. But what's really interesting about this actually is that they kind of, the Cigarette Smoking Man doesn't do anything in this movie. He stands around looking mysterious. He goes to Antarctica and then leaves again. He doesn't actually do anything apart from just stand there looking mysterious.
Yeah.
And characters like Donis Davis and the First Elder, who's that kind of mafia don. I love that character, and yet he's basically a non-speaking part in the movie because you've got Armin Stahl's character coming in and taking charge.
Yeah.
So it kind of feels like let's get a big caliber actor, but then again, it feels a bit disjointed from what happens before or after. I guess for me, the one good thing about it is it's a really good role for John Neville, the Well-Man. For me, the Well-Man and Cure-Man is my favourite of all the conspiracy guys anyway.
Yeah.
And he's brilliant in this movie. I mean, obviously, this is the movie when he dies.
Yeah.
Possibly needlessly, but then apart from cigarette smoking, they killed everyone off by the next season anyway.
Yeah.
But he does get that really good scene with Mulder in the car when, I think it's the extended version of the movie that wasn't shown at cinema that talks about more about his sister and why she was taken. So he does kind of really bring up this alien cure against colonization, which they really kind of got to grips with in season 5 as well. So there's some really kind of good stuff with that, but at the same time, it's like everything. The focus on this new character who then doesn't appear again, even though he's still alive at the end, and he could have died. I think that would have been fine if had he died.
Yeah,
it would worked, and it kind of this head of the consortium that then gets killed and therefore doesn't play around the future. Because when you watch X-Files again, you're thinking, well, where is he? Well, obviously he wasn't committed to a series, and that's why it wasn't it. So we know practically why it's not there. But from a narrative point of view, it makes no sense. He obviously, we assume, survives what happens to the rest of the consortium in season 6.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, it's just that kind of slightly weird disconnect as well. Going back to kind of the positive movie, I guess one thing that it does actually do, though, again, there's a lot of criticism of the X-Files that it didn't really explain things. And I think the movie actually does do it. It talks about the conspiracy by spreading this virus, which by the bees, and then the aliens will colonize Earth. And it kind of, I think, along with some of the stuff in season 5, I think this movie with the Well-Man and Cure-Man and Mulder, their discussion, really does say what is going to happen. There's going to be a crisis, there's going to be a disease, and the bees are going to spread it, and then there's going to be a panic, and the consortium will probably take over, and the aliens will colonize. It actually is quite laid out quite clearly in the movie, which I guess was probably designed for kind of the casual audiences, and maybe to try and possibly get people into the follow-on series who maybe had kind of fallen away from the show. So there is that sense of the conspiracy itself is kind of both disconnected, I think, the focus on the character, but at the same time it does kind of simplify everything what's happening at this point as well. So maybe there are some answers. It's just very very minor the way it's kind of played out.
Yeah. I mean, no matter how you cut it, at the end of the day, it does play out like a very long episode. Just maybe not quite as nerdy as us fans would have liked.
Part of the question with all these kind of movies is what do actually people want? Expectations are so high. It was never going to meet them. It's not Mulder and Scully do Independence Day. I mean, they're that great gag when actually Mulder's peeing on the Independence Day poster.
Yeah.
It's almost like saying, we're not going there. We're not going with alien invasion, which Conway would have been that would have been the thing. The public finds about aliens as aliens invade, and Mulder and Scully save the Earth. They could have done that. And maybe had Chris Carter actually succeeded and done a series of films, maybe that's where it would have ended up. And maybe that's where season 10 is now, because obviously that was quite blatant into the cliffhanger.
Yeah.
But at the it's kind of saying it's not doing that. We're kind of, we're doing what we do well. We're doing monsters, we're doing conspiracies, we're doing aliens, we're doing the kind of shadowy consortiums. But we are going to throw in some big set pieces as well. So like the Dallas bombing, which really, and that's a big set piece. It's quite dramatic.
Yeah, I mean, that was Lethal Weapon 3 levels of opening scene, really, wasn't it?
Yeah. And really, it's overkill. You wouldn't have got that in a TV series, because really, it's a clever idea. You're trying to cover up the death of the boy.
Yeah.
That was it was black. It was American Gothic at the time, wasn't he? It was a big series at the time. Him and his 2 firemen who rescued him obviously got infected with black oil. It's a cover up, but it's very very dramatic. It's almost like, it's a movie? Let's blow up an entire building because we can do it.
You can hear Chris Carter rubbing his hands together at his budget at that point, can't you?
Definitely. I guess as well as the big end. I mean, obviously the ending, and the ending is basically the inside of the ship is purely like Geiger out of Alien. I love the design of it, and it's so huge. Like when Mulder kind of slips and falls, and you think, he would just keep falling. When would it stop? It's so huge. I mean, to the point where it's actually a bit ridiculous. Think, well, how is he? It's almost like coincidentally he happens to find Scully, and he happens to get out in time. Because realistically, he should have been wandering that shit for like 2 days. But it's exciting, it's fun. I guess the other thing as well. I mean, the other probably movie set piece is the whole thing with the bees. When they find the domes and then they're chased out and the kind of helicopters, which is kind of pure by Northwest, really, isn't it? It's basically an exciting action sequence. Does it need to be there? Possibly not, but it's big. It's a movie. It's exciting. I think, and that's what's
well, that's it. It's there for thrills, isn't it? It's there for no, they're going to get caught. They're going to get caught. It was a
no.
But at the same time, it was very X-Files to be chased by black helicopters.
Exactly. I mean, that's probably it. It's a movie. The movie doesn't really do much, and if you get the biggest criticism is the movie. Mulder learns a little bit more, but he tends to do in the mythology ones. You get piece by piece, they learn more. But ultimately, had the movie not happened, the X-Files, the way the plot was going, probably wouldn't be much different, I think. And that's the thing. Apart from they open the X-Files, well, that isn't enough really to warrant a movie. But it's fun, it's exciting, and the score's great. You can see Mark Snow kind of, again, like Chris Scott, rubbing his hands with glee. You can see Mark Snow's music is bigger, it's more dramatic, it's going for kind of John Williams, James Horner style, big sweeping sounds as they drive across the desert. It is fun, and it is that attempt to make it just a bit more heightened too.
Absolutely. I think one of my favourite bits about this film was I remember when it came out, or just before it came out, it was one of the first times I remember reading about what people done to protect their script. Like you get a lot of Star Wars script gets sent round, and it's got names all over it. So if it ever leaks, we know who leaked it and things like that. I remember reading that Chris Carter sent out the script for this on red paper, so that it could never be photocopied.
Right.
Because if you photocopied it, it would just all come out black. And obviously, 97, 96, 97, when it was being written and filmed, photocopying was about your biggest worry. But yeah, I remember just thinking this seems very X-Files to go very conspiracy theory with your script as well.
I was going to say what your thoughts on the kind of the romance angle of the movie as well, because they certainly played up, don't they?
Nah, it's a film. It feels like
it's done. It's done for the movie. I mean, obviously they do eventually get together, and I think it naturally happens.
Yeah, I think it's done for the date nighters at the cinema.
I watch it again. It all still feels that leaning for that kiss and you get sucked by the bee does still very.
It's a bit cringy.
It's a film. Let's do it. It's not saying I don't dislike it, but I just don't think it was necessary at all. No. I think that's it. I think you've seen enough, and if you watch the series, you know that Mulder and Scully will go literally to the ends of the earth for each other, as Mulder does in this film.
Yeah.
But I think it's like casual cinema viewers, aren't they? They're like, why would he? She's his partner. They're close. Why would he go to Antarctica to save this woman? Well, he loves her. I think it's almost a bit on the nose, but I guess it's why they do it. I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. To appease the people that aren't you or me or other fans that don't realise that he would do that no matter what.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe because I was about 17 at the time. I don't know. I remember watching it thinking, why are they doing this? I don't know. Like they don't need. Yes, they're close. I mean, she was died of cancer. He's died. They've lost all their family members. It's kind of it's all been bleak, and they've bonded. And that's it. So it's almost like it's one of those ones when I always felt that. For me, they should have really got together, because actually it wasn't about romance. They were as close as a romantic couple, but it wasn't about romance to me. So to kind of change that dynamic, seemed a little bit false. And maybe the movie's to blame, because actually once they put it out there, then I think it was like okay, and it wasn't as if it was when they would get together. And even then, they kind of screwed it up with is he the father of the baby and stuff. But that's later on. Yeah,
they did. They screwed the pooch quite a fair bit with that one, I think.
Yeah, except I think I had the end of season 8 when he comes back and the baby's there. That would have been fine. Once you get to the point that he's returning season 8 and that last shot of that other season when they're together with William in her arms.
Yeah,
that was a perfect ending for the show, and they would have been getting together as a couple, and that would have been much nicer than obviously what came after. But it's all on the. I like the Dog and Bear stuff of season 9, but nothing else really. I think it's because they didn't know when to stop. But
No.
yeah, so I think the movie's to blame for that. I think before the movie, I don't think there was probably, it was more the fans.
Yeah.
They said, "Oh, we want models to go together," and they teased it, but they never actually did. And then they went, "Oh no, they're not quite. They're almost there now." So it just kind of as a matter of when rather than if. So yeah, the movie's to blame. The movie's to blame for William.
Yeah, I think I'm happy to lay the blame for William there as well. I think that seems like a good place for us to wrap it up, mate.
Great. Great talking about it.
Before we go on for too long. Yeah, that was Fight the Future, the first X-Files movie, arguably, easily the best X-Files movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very, very briefly, I liked the second movie. When I watched it last year, I liked it a lot more than I thought it was, but this one's on a whole other level, really.
Yeah, see, the second X-Files movie, I think, did it come out 5 years after the show ended?
Yeah.
That's the kind of spin-off movie that we're used to nowadays. One that A, comes out after the show is finished, and B,
that's what you expect. It was a good X-Files episode, very dark, but actually it's not the cinematic X-Files, and this one, I think, for the most part, was.
Yeah. That's us done chatting for the first X-Files movie. Come back tomorrow where they will be talking about season 6, episode 1, which is the beginning, as we mentioned earlier on. Come find us on Twitter, the X_cast. Come find us on Facebook. We are the X-Files Basement and X-Files Podcast fan group. And remember, until next time, trust no one.